Too Close for Podcast. On tonight's episode, we will be discussing episode 216. First aired on February 23rd, 1982. The episode title, My Unfavorite Martin.
Alright, so this time we begin with Henry coming home to find April is moving in with Jackie and Sarah. And Muriel is offering Henry some champagne. Champagne, Marty.
Champagne.
Even though she's clearly very, very pregnant.
Seemingly very flat champagne.
Henry is very excited because he thinks now is a good time to fix up that spare bedroom for the baby. When he finds out that Muriel's mother is going to be moving in, he pours that champagne back in the bottle and says that he'll leave town before she gets here. As they are arguing, we see Henry pick a sweater out of the dresser drawer.
That might have been one of the first times we ever saw him put the sweater on.
I believe that was the very first time. And finally, Henry's like, okay, whatever. So the next morning, Henry goes to pick Muriel's mother up from the airport. He goes to pick her up. But she took an earlier flight and shows up on her own. And she's very excited to see her grandchildren. When she meets April, she's not so happy. Why is she not so happy, Marty?
Because, you can let his side of the family stay here. That might be the only time that those two characters interact with each other in the entire series.
That may be true.
Iris and April. So we only have 6 episodes left of this season, and I don't remember if Iris is in any more of this season.
Is that right? Well, we'll figure it out as we go along. But she thinks April is like out on parole or something, because April is wearing a striped...
Furlough.
Furlough, is that what she said?
I think so.
Furlough.
She was wearing camouflage.
When Henry gets back from trying to pick Muriel's mother up at the airport, he's very excited because she didn't get off the plane. As he's talking about this, he realizes that she's standing right behind him. All right, so later, I'm going to say the next day, Muriel and her mother are making breakfast, and her mother's just criticizing Henry and the way Muriel keeps the kitchen and basically runs her life. She's kind of a cranky old... Henry comes in the kitchen, and he's just knocked out a really good script for Cosmic Cow, but he won't look Henry's mother in the eye and just gets a cup of coffee. And he's pretty happy because he's just some good Cosmic Cow work. None of this is in my notes. And then we find out Muriel's mother tells them that they owe their Uncle Claude. It's a family debt. Apparently their Uncle Claude named their grandchild spoiler alert, Iris. We still have not learned what Muriel's mother's name is, and we're a good 12 minutes into this program. So they owe Uncle Claude a debt and have to name their baby Ulema, I believe. I wrote it phonetically. But that's way too much for Henry. And he just storms off like, I've had enough of this.
Well, if they had twins like Iris said they were having, one of them could be named. What was that name?
Ulema?
Wow.
And then Muriel's mother calls Henry a loser after he's left. Obviously, I bet she's probably said it to his face numerous times. This is why Henry does not like this woman, because she's sort of unlikable. So then Muriel puts her mother in her place and tells her, just puts her in her place, basically. So her still unnamed mother wishes Muriel good luck and says she'll be going back home, or she's leaving. The next day, Muriel is worried because her mother isn't answering her phone in Chicago. Then the girls and Monroe confront Henry and tell him how cruel he is for throwing out Muriel's mother, because we still don't know her name, out of the house. And then we find out that she's staying downstairs with the girls and driving them crazy. We have April and Muriel's mother living downstairs with the girls. That can't be good. So the girls want Muriel to make up with her mother. So Henry goes downstairs and he says, "How are you doing, Iris?" And then she quickly tells him that she's been lying to Muriel all these years because Muriel was adopted.
Wow.
Wow. So Henry makes Iris feel better about the situation. It's like, okay, that happened, so what? And says that she should tell Muriel about it. So Iris goes upstairs and they makes peace with Muriel and says, "I'll see you later," and goes back to Chicago to her traveling agency job.
Obviously, it's the first appearance of Iris Martin, played by Audrey Meadows. This one was written by Julie Friedkin, and from what I can tell, it's the only episode of the series she ever wrote. Just like last week's oddball episode, The Last Weekend, written by Jeff Cohn, and that was the only episode he wrote. And I guess it would explain why these two episodes are a little strange, but they probably had some sort of a story arc to follow. Because I don't think they just bring in some random writer and then they write, well, I'm going to type in she's adopted. They probably,
Well, and if he did, that means they have to change the whole course of the show,
exactly.
Right?
So I don't think that was the case. Okay, Cosmic Cow. All over the place. We see the drawing board. We hear about Cosmic Cow destroying the sponge monster on Venus, which you argued there's no water on Venus.
There's no water on Venus.
She refers to Henry's drawings as stick figures.
Very dismissive of his talents, and very successful. He has his own comic book. Come on.
1982 still was frowned upon, apparently.
By her.
Yeah. So, Henry's sweaters. Wow. Not only do we see him put on the Georgia sweater, we also get West Virginia, which had pockets, and Lehigh University from, what was that, in Pennsylvania?
Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, I believe.
Pennsylvania, a private 4-year university. I'm guessing this must have been the point where people were mailing the sweaters in for him to wear on the show.
Is that what was happening?
That's what Wikipedia says happened. That people were like, oh, mail the college sweater. Maybe it'll show up on Too Close for Comfort. And a first, 3 sweaters in one episode.
The first time ever?
Yeah. Which furthers the theory of maybe they were getting so many sweaters, they were trying to work them in. A lot of firsts in this episode. It's very interesting. First Iris, first 3 times a sweater. Once, twice, 3 times a sweater.
That would be a good name for the show.
Monroe wearing stripes or not? No. No Monroe stripes.
2 appearances by Monroe. No
Yeah.
stripes.
Henry points.
But, wait a second.
Okay.
April, totally wearing stripes.
April's wearing Monroe's stripes again. And even Iris is wearing the stripes because that apron was striped.
That is good pull. That was good.
6 pointing instances from Henry. And some of those points had multiple points going on. It's the rule of that I made up for myself for this show of if he points more than once within like roughly a minute, I won't count it as 2 points because otherwise we'd have like 300 pointing instances in episodes sometimes.
That sounds good.
And we get 1 good Henry stammer. We get a freeze frame transition of, not really the freeze frame transition, but the El Camino drive-by. We got to see that at the beginning of Act 3. No mention of Monroe's motorcycle yet. That's coming up soon. But Monroe's car was mentioned again. Maybe that's the El Camino.
Because he gave Iris a ride to the airport.
That's true. This may be the last mention of Monroe's car, because once Monroe's motorcycle shows up in about 7 episodes. But we'll have to see about that. Muriel singing was mentioned with the orchestra. Andrew. Well, they're talking more about him. There's the whole baby bump, spare room converted to nursery. I think that's finally mentioned. See, they waited too long to do something with that room. They didn't really have a choice because April was in there, and now Iris wants to be in there. And then, of course, Andrew, they wanted to call Andrew, what was that name again? It was a crazy name. I know when I go to Too Close for Comfort Con, that's the character I'm going as.
Ulema.
Ulema.
Ulama.
Now that should have been the episode title. Ulema. The intro was the short classic intro with Monroe in the chair. Looking shamed as always. Music cues. We had a 5-note and a 1-note. Scale of 1 to 5. I'm giving this one a 4. There's a lot going on in this one. It's very interesting.
1 to 5?
Yeah.
4. I mean, Iris was in it.
And April was in it, so that might be one of the.
I mean, seriously,
it really was too close for comfort. Too many people in there. Henry's going insane.
Everybody was there. Monroe, everybody. They called them all in this week. So yeah, a 4 just based on that alone, I guess.
Bizarre, odd happenings, all sorts of stuff this week. In Act 1, we had a scene with everyone in it except for Henry. Then in Act 2, we had a scene with everyone in it except Iris.
Right.
And that scene's very interesting because I don't recall the entire cast being in one scene before like that. You got April, Sarah, Jackie, Monroe all lined up.
Lined up like they were on the prison line.
And now I think about it, in 2 weeks from now, we'll get a similar occurrence in one of my favorite episodes as the cookie crumbles when they make Cosmic Cow cookies. That one's coming up in a couple weeks. I think we do get a similar occurrence.
Is that kind of like a I Love Lucy kind of takeoff
a
sort
little
of thing?
bit, but it's more about copyright
homage.
infringement.
Homage?
Maybe, but it's more about copyright infringement rather than trying to cram a bunch of cookies in your mouth all at once. Let's see. And then in Act 3, we had a scene with Henry and Iris together. The 2 people that were missing from the giant scenes earlier. I just think it's kind of odd. Another odd thing. Uncle Claude. Remember that name?
That is Iris's brother.
Yeah. And you can add him to the litany of other characters mentioned that have full names that we're never going to hear about again.
What is... Oh, Iris Martin is her name.
Iris Martin.
So her brother is obviously named Claude Martin.
Yeah. And speaking of Iris Martin, she wants to know the baby's name, but what's her name? Oh, the irony of Act 1.
And Act 2.
Yeah, because we don't get her name until Act 3, when Henry utters the word Iris for the first
Just
time.
casually, just like they should have been saying it the whole time.
Yep. And we get a strange freeze-frame fade-out at the end of Act 2, at least on our copy from Antenna TV. Maybe that's where a couple extra minutes go in this episode, was my guess. Oh, and at the time that we're recording this, not that this matters when you're hearing this 20 years from now, Antenna TV has ceased showing Too Close for the time being. But don't worry, it'll come back, I'm
Or
sure.
has it, because now it's on again.
Yeah. This was another first. This was the first that said 1982 in the end credits. That makes at least 3 firsts in this episode. So this one was probably intended to happen a little later in the season, because there's 22 episodes of the season, but this is actually episode 16. What did we learn this week? We learned you don't have to respect anyone just because they're your parent. A person has to earn that.
Right.
Muriel's adopted. We also learned that. And with Iris's introduction, the show is now firmly in place as she is the last new major character to be introduced. Granted, there's going to be a few more reoccurring characters, but nobody that has as much of an impact on the show as Iris Martin's character does. And like I was saying earlier, I don't think we see her again for the rest of the season, but we will discover that as we go along. Next week, episode 217. Back to the old school writing staff of, well, at least we got Earl Barrett writing on this one. 7th Month Blues. Henry's generous, I'm going to read the wiki on this one. Henry's generous offer to arrange a job interview for an attractive art student backfires when she begins showing affection for him. Next time.
You can hear my show on Stitcher. Stitcher is radio on demand. Download the free app today. Listen anytime, anywhere.
Create custom playlists. Rate and review my show on Stitcher. And over 4 million car dashboards.
On demand and on the go. No downloading, no syncing, no wasted memory. Stream your favorite podcasts. Don't have Stitcher? Download it free today at Stitcher.com or in the App Store.